They have turned our own network against us, observed Commander Thek. The destruction of the Vorthak communication network sent shockwaves across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds that had been conquered by the Empire, enslaved populations looked up at the sky and realized that their oppressors had gone silent. For the first time in generations, rebellion seemed possible. On the prison world of Kethvar, the luminary slaves who had been forced to work in crystal mines for 50 years suddenly found their guards confused and isolated. Without orders from command, the Vorthak soldiers did not know how to respond when the prisoners simply walked out of the mines and declared their freedom. Similar uprisings began on every Vorthak-controlled world. The empire that had ruled through fear and superior communication suddenly found itself fighting dozens of separate wars against enemies who had learned from humanity's example. Chaos was spreading, and the Vorthak did not know how to fight it. But Earth was still in immediate danger. Admiral Krix's flagship hung in orbit above Japan, charging its planet-killer weapon. The massive ship was designed to crack open worlds, and Earth would not survive its attack. Lee Taeho's captured shuttle raced through space toward Earth, pushed beyond its design limits by Archean modifications and human desperation. On board were 12 volunteers, 6 humans, 4 Archeans, and 2 Luminari who had joined the mission despite their species' pacifist nature. Estimated time to Earth orbit? Taeho asked the ship's navigator, an Archean named Silthan. At current speed, 16 minutes, Silthan replied. But the Vorthak flagship will be ready to fire in 12 minutes. Then we need to go faster, Taeho said. He pushed the engines past their safety limits, feeling the ship shake as it accelerated through space. Behind him, his mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together with a coordination that would have been impossible before the war. The humans provided intuitive problem-solving and emotional resilience. The Archeans contributed technical expertise and logical analysis. The Luminari offered creative solutions that neither of the other species would have considered. Together, they had become something new, a truly galactic crew united by purpose rather than biology. On Earth, Kim Do-hyun was coordinating a desperate ground-based effort to support the space mission. The electromagnetic pulse that had destroyed the Vorthak network had also damaged some human systems, but the Resistance had backup plans. They always had backup plans. All remaining surface-to-orbit weapons target the Vorthak flagship, Do-hyun ordered through the emergency communication network. We cannot penetrate their shields, but we can distract them. Missile batteries that had survived the initial invasion opened fire. Ancient nuclear weapons left over from Earth's wars were launched from hidden silos. Even civilian rockets were loaded with explosives and sent toward the alien ship. None of these weapons could seriously damage the flagship, but they created a cloud of debris and explosions that forced Krix to activate his defensive systems. Every second of delay gave Taeho's team more time to reach the battle. In the Vorthak Command Center, Admiral Krix watched the primitive human weapons explode harmlessly against his shields. But he was troubled by reports from across his empire. Communication with other fleets was sporadic at best. Some worlds had gone completely silent. How widespread is this network failure? Krix asked Commander Thek. Unknown, sir. The quantum virus appears to be spreading through entangled communication links. We may have lost contact with up to 70% of our forces. Krix felt a cold fear in his stomach. The Vorthak Empire had been built on superior technology and coordinated tactics. Without the communication network, his forces were just scattered groups of soldiers with advanced weapons. They were still dangerous, but they were no longer an empire. The planet killer will be ready in 8 minutes, reported the weapons officer. Shall we proceed with the bombardment? Krix hesitated. Destroying Earth would eliminate the source of the virus, but it would also destroy the only species that might be able to repair the damage to his network. The humans had somehow turned Vorthak technology against itself. Perhaps they could also reverse the process. But before Krix could decide, new alarms began sounding throughout the ship. A small vessel was approaching at incredible speed, somehow penetrating the flagship's sensor network without being detected until the last moment. Impossible, Krix said. Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. The approaching ship appears to be using chaotic movement patterns, the sensor operator reported. Our targeting computers cannot predict its course. On the attacking shuttle, Taeho was flying by pure instinct. He had turned off the navigation computer and was piloting the ship using human intuition, and alien technology. The combination created flight patterns that no logical system could anticipate or track. Approaching the flagship's weapon array, Tejo announced to his crew, "Prepare for close-quarters assault." The plan was insane even by human standards. They were going to land their small shuttle inside the Vorthak flagship's weapon bay and sabotage the planet killer from the inside. It required precision, luck, and the kind of desperate courage that only came from fighting for the survival of one species. Choi Soo-jin's voice crackled through the communication system from her bunker in Seoul. "Tai-ho, I'm uploading the virus directly to your ship's computer. When you connect to the Vorthak systems, it should spread through their local network." "Understood," Tejo replied. "If we do not succeed, you will succeed," Do-yun interrupted from the command bunker. "Failure is not an option." The shuttle pierced the flagship's defensive perimeter like an arrow of light. Vorthak interceptors tried to shoot it down, but Tejo's chaotic flying made him impossible to target. He spun and twisted through space, following patterns that made sense only to human intuition. Inside the Vorthak flagship, Yoon Hyun-woo was still trapped in the command center. But the confusion caused by the approaching shuttle gave him an opportunity. When the guards were distracted by battle station's alarms, he quietly activated his hidden communication device. "Tejo, this is Hyun-woo. The Planet Killer's control center is on Deck 7, Section 12. But be warned, Crix has set up a trap. He knows you are coming." The warning came just in time. As Tejo's shuttle penetrated the flagship's landing bay, Vorthak soldiers opened fire from prepared positions. But the human crew was ready for a fight. Park Ji-min activated her emotion amplifiers and led the charge out of the shuttle. The electromagnetic interference from her enhanced fear and anger disrupted Vorthak neural implants throughout the landing bay. Suddenly, the aliens' enhanced reflexes became slower than human reactions. "For Earth!" Ji-min shouted, and the mixed crew of humans and aliens fought side by side against their oppressors. The battle inside the flagship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humans using chaotic tactics fought alongside logical Archeans and creative Luminari against enhanced Vorthak soldiers whose technology was failing them. Energy weapons flashed in the metal corridors as two different philosophies of warfare clashed in the heart of the enemy ship. Tejo led a strike team toward the Planet Killer's control center while the others held the landing bay. But as they advanced through the ship's corridors, they encountered increasing resistance. Crix had indeed prepared a trap. "Motion sensors ahead," warned Silthan, the Archean navigator. "At least 20 Vorthak soldiers in defensive positions." "Then we go around," Tejo said. But when they checked alternate routes, they found more soldiers waiting. Crix had anticipated logical tactical thinking and blocked all the obvious approaches to the control center. That was when the Luminari crew member, a young engineer named Naya, made a suggestion that changed everything. "What if we do not go around or through?" Naya asked. "What if we go where they do not expect?" She pointed to a maintenance shaft that led directly up through the ship's superstructure. It was too small for Vorthak soldiers but perfectly sized for the smaller bodies of humans and their allies. "The shaft leads directly to the Planet Killer's power core," Naya explained. "If we can introduce Soo-jin's virus at that level, it will spread through all the weapon systems simultaneously." It was a desperate plan, but it was also completely illogical from a military perspective. That made it perfect for confusing Vorthak defenders who expected rational tactical decisions. Tejo's team crawled through the maintenance shaft while battle raged throughout the rest of the ship. Below them, they could hear Crix shouting orders to his troops, trying to coordinate a defense against an enemy that refused to follow predictable patterns. They reached the power core just as the Planet Killer weapon finished charging. Through the transparent metal walls, they could see Earth hanging in space below them, beautiful and vulnerable. In minutes, the blue world would be nothing but scattered debris. "Upload the virus now," Tejo ordered. Naya connected Soo-jin's modified computer system to the Vorthak power core. The virus that had already destroyed their communication network began spreading through the flagship's internal systems. But this time, Soo-jin had made improvements based on what she had learned from the first attack. The new virus did not just disrupt Vorthak technology, it inverted it. Weapons designed to destroy became tools of creation. Communication systems meant to spread orders beg. The countdown to Operation Disconnect had begun. In hidden bunkers across Earth, resistance fighters made final preparations for the most important battle in human history. They had one chance to strike at the heart of the Vorthak Empire. If they failed, Earth would remain under alien control forever. Kim Do-hyun stood in the main command bunker beneath Seoul, looking at a holographic map of the world. Red dots marked Vorthak communication hubs in 23 cities. Each hub had to be destroyed at exactly the same time, or the surviving hubs would adapt and strengthen their defenses. Final equipment check, Do-hyun announced to his team leaders. Soo-jin, are the jammers ready? Choi Soo-jin nodded, wiping sweat from her forehead. She had been working for 36 hours straight, putting the finishing touches on her electromagnetic weapons. All devices are programmed and tested. Each team has 3 jammers with different musical patterns. When they activate together, the quantum network should overload. Should? Asked Lee Min-ho, the former police officer who now led the assault team. Will? Soo-jin corrected herself with a tired smile. The quantum network will overload. I have run the calculations 100 times. But she did not mention her private fears. The calculations were based on limited data about Vorthak technology. If she had made any mistakes, the operation would fail and many good people would die. On Mars, Lee Tae-ho was preparing for his own mission. The red planet housed the primary Vorthak communication relay for the entire solar system. Destroying it would cut off the invasion force from their home fleet. But the Mars facility was the most heavily defended target in the operation. Tae-ho's team was a mix of human resistance fighters and volunteer Archean technicians. The aliens could not fight directly, but they could provide technical support and equipment operation. It was a compromise that satisfied their treaty obligations while still helping the human cause. The facility has energy shields that can stop conventional weapons, explained Noktar, an Archean engineer. But Soo-jin's electromagnetic jammers should disrupt the shield generators long enough for us to penetrate the defenses. How long? Tae-ho asked. Perhaps 5 minutes. Maybe less, Tae-ho nodded grimly. 5 minutes to fight through Vorthak defenses and destroy the most important target in the solar system. It would be the longest 5 minutes of his life. In Tokyo, Yoon Hyun-woo was playing his most dangerous game yet. As a trusted translator and cultural advisor, he had access to the Vorthak command center. His job was to provide intelligence and sabotage from the inside when the operation began. But Admiral Crix was suspicious. The Vorthak commander had noticed patterns in the recent resistance activities. The humans were coordinating too well, sharing information too quickly. Someone was feeding them intelligence from inside the Vorthak command structure. Summon the human translator, Crix ordered his aide. I have questions for him. Hyun-woo entered the command center trying to look calm, but his heart was racing. In 6 hours, Operation Disconnect would begin. He had to stay undercover until then, or the entire plan would collapse. You have served us well, Crix said, studying Hyun-woo with his cold, alien eyes. Your insights into human behavior have been valuable. But I wonder, how can you understand your own species so well, yet remain loyal to us? Because I am a realist, Hyun-woo replied carefully. Humans cannot win against superior technology. The wise choice is to serve the winning side. It was a performance worthy of an actor. Hyun-woo had to make Crix believe that he had truly betrayed his own species. But inside, he was counting down the hours until he could help strike back at the alien occupiers. Around the world, other resistance teams were moving into position. In London, a group of former SAS soldiers prepared to assault the European communication hub. In New York, engineers and computer specialists got ready to hack into the North American relay station. Similar teams were positioned in Moscow, Beijing, Mumbai, Sydney, and 15 other cities. Each team had been trained to use Soo-jin's electromagnetic weapons, but they all knew the devices were experimental. No one had tested them against fully operational Vorthak systems. They were about to discover whether human ingenuity could overcome alien technology. Park Ji-min was with the London team, carrying her emotion amplifiers and biological warfare equipment. Her research had shown that human psychological states could disrupt Vorthak neural implants. During the attack, she would coordinate the emotional warfare component of the operation. Remember, she told the team, when you engage the Vorthak soldiers, let your emotions run free. Get angry, get scared, get excited. Your feelings will interfere with their enhanced reflexes and give you an advantage in combat. It was strange advice for soldiers, who were usually trained to control their emotions in battle. But these were strange times, and humans were learning to use their weaknesses as strengths. The operation began at exactly 1800 Greenwich Mean Time. In Seoul, Do-hyun gave the signal that was transmitted instantly to resistance cells around the world using Soo-jin's modified communication network. Operation Disconnect is go, Do-hyun announced. All teams execute your missions. For Earth, for humanity, for freedom. In Tokyo, Hyunwoo was still in the Vorthak command center when the first attacks began. Alarms started blaring as reports came in from around the world. The resistance was striking everywhere at once. Crix roared in anger and frustration. How did they coordinate this? Our surveillance should have detected any large-scale communication. Hyunwoo remained silent, but inside he was cheering. Soo-jin's chaotic communication system had worked perfectly. The Vorthak had been watching for logical, predictable military communications. They had completely missed the emotional, intuitive human network that spread information like wildfire. Deploy all reserves, Crix ordered. Crush these attacks immediately. But when Crix tried to send orders to his scattered forces, he discovered that something was wrong with the communication network. His commands were delayed, distorted, or lost entirely. Unknown to him, human resistance fighters were already attacking the quantum relay stations that connected his empire. On Mars, Taeho's team struck the primary communication facility with surgical precision. The Archean technical support proved invaluable as they bypassed alien security systems and penetrated the outer defenses. Soo-jin's electromagnetic jammers created just enough interference to drop the energy shields. 5 minutes, Taeho reminded his team as they fought their way through corridors filled with Vorthak soldiers. We have 5 minutes before they adapt. The battle was fierce but brief. Human chaos tactics confused the Vorthak defenders, who expected organized military assault patterns. Instead, they faced resistance fighters who attacked from unexpected angles, used unconventional weapons, and seemed to make decisions based on pure instinct rather than tactical doctrine. Taeho reached the central communication array with 30 seconds to spare. He placed Soo-jin's most powerful jammer directly on the quantum processor core and activated it using a musical pattern based on a Korean folk song his grandmother had taught him. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The quantum network began oscillating wildly as the ordered alien technology tried to process the chaotic human input. Overload cascades spread through the system like a virus, destroying delicate quantum circuits and shutting down communication links across the solar system. Similar scenes played out in cities around Earth. Human teams struck fast and hard, using their emotional advantages and unpredictable tactics to overcome superior alien technology. Not every mission succeeded. 3 teams were wiped out and 2 more failed to reach their targets. But enough jammers activated to create a cascade failure in the Vorthak network. In the London assault, Jimin's emotional warfare tactics proved devastatingly effective. As human soldiers embraced their anger and fear, the electromagnetic interference from their brains disrupted Vorthak neural implants throughout the facility. Enhanced alien soldiers suddenly found themselves slower and clumsier than unenhanced humans. It's working, Jimin shouted over the sound of energy weapons and explosions. Their implants are failing. The psychological impact was enormous. Vorthak soldiers who had been superhuman warriors suddenly became confused and vulnerable. For the first time since the invasion began, humans were winning direct combat encounters with their alien occupiers. But the real victory came when Soo-jin's master stroke activated. All the jammers around the world had been synchronized to activate a final sequence after the initial attacks. This sequence created a feedback loop that spread through the entire Vorthak quantum network, carrying a virus-like signal that corrupted communication protocols and disabled spacecraft systems. Vorthak ships in orbit around Earth suddenly lost contact with their command structure. Their navigation systems failed. Their weapon targeting computers crashed. Crews found themselves flying blind through space, unable to coordinate with other ships or receive new orders. In the Tokyo command center, Crix watched his empire crumble in real time. Status reports showed communication failures across dozens of star systems. Ships were going dark throughout Vorthak space. The network that held his civilization together was destroying itself from within. How is this possible? Crix demanded. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. Humans may be more resourceful than the Vorthak expect. In my experience, 3 months after the invasion began, Earth looked like a different world. The Vorthak had conquered most major cities, but they were learning that conquering and controlling were two different things. Humans refused to accept defeat. In every occupied city, resistance movements grew stronger each day. Kim Do-hyun crouched in the abandoned subway tunnels beneath Seoul. The underground had become a maze of hidden bases, weapon caches, and secret communication networks. Above ground, Vorthak soldiers patrolled the streets with their advanced sensors, but below ground belonged to the humans. "Report," Do-hyun said to his team leaders gathered around a makeshift table. "The Vorthak are having trouble with the subway attacks," said Lee Min-ho, a former police officer. "Every time they send patrols down here, we hit them from 3 directions and disappear. They cannot map our tunnel system." "Good," Do-hyun said. "What about supplies?" "Choi Soo-jin's team has captured 3 more alien weapons," said another fighter. "She says she can modify them by tomorrow." Do-hyun smiled. Soo-jin had become their secret weapon. Every piece of Vorthak technology she studied made the human resistance stronger. The aliens designed their equipment to be logical and predictable. Soo-jin made it chaotic and human. In her hidden laboratory, Soo-jin was working on her latest project. She had learned that Vorthak weapons used quantum processors to aim and fire. These processors calculated the most efficient way to hit targets, but Soo-jin had introduced human intuition into the system. Her modified weapons did not always aim for the most logical target. Sometimes they fired randomly. Sometimes they waited for the perfect moment based on the operator's emotions. The Vorthak could not predict when or where these weapons would fire, which made them nearly impossible to defend against. "Chaos is our advantage," Soo-jin said to her assistant, Park Young-sik. "The aliens think in straight lines. We think in circles, loops, and spirals." She activated her latest creation, a communication device that used Vorthak technology, but operated on human networking principles. Instead of sending information in logical patterns, it spread messages like gossip. The Vorthak monitoring systems could not track or block it because it did not follow any consistent pattern. "Test it," Soo-jin said. Young-sik activated the device and sent a simple message. "The sun rises in the east." Within minutes, resistance cells across Seoul had received the message, along with dozens of variations, jokes, and additions that other humans had attached to it. The Vorthak intercepted thousands of these messages, but they could not understand the real meaning. To their logical minds, humans seemed to be sharing random thoughts about weather, food, and daily life. They did not realize that each message contained coded instructions for resistance operations. On the other side of the world, Park Ji-min was working in a secret laboratory in the mountains of Switzerland. After escaping from Europa, she had been recruited by an international group of scientists studying alien biology and technology. Ji-min had made an important discovery. The Vorthak were not just technologically advanced, they were biologically enhanced. Each soldier had neural implants that connected them to their command network. These implants made them faster, stronger, and more coordinated than natural Vorthak. But the implants had a weakness. They operated on specific electromagnetic frequencies. Ji-min had found that human brain patterns, especially during emotional stress, naturally generated interference on those same frequencies. "Look at this," Ji-min said to her research partner, Dr. Rodriguez. She showed him brain scans of human soldiers during combat. "When humans get angry or scared, our neural activity creates electromagnetic noise that disrupts Vorthak implants." "You mean our emotions can damage their technology?" Rodriguez asked. "Not damage, but confuse," Ji-min explained. "A Vorthak soldier near an angry human will experience delays and errors in their neural network. Their enhanced reflexes become slower than normal reflexes." This discovery led to the development of emotion amplifiers, devices that boosted the electromagnetic output of human brains during stress. Human soldiers wearing these devices could literally think their way past Vorthak defenses. Meanwhile, in space, Lee Tae-ho was learning about galactic politics. The Archean Collective had listened to his story with interest, but they were reluctant to intervene directly. They had treaties with the Vorthak that prevented open warfare. "We cannot send our military to fight the Vorthak," explained Councillor Zelnun, the leader of the Archean government. "But we can provide humanitarian aid." "What kind of aid?" Tae-ho asked. Medical supplies, communication equipment, defensive systems, Zelnan said carefully. Things that could be used for protection rather than attack. Teho understood. The Archeans wanted to help without officially breaking their treaties. It was not everything he had hoped for, but it was something. Velthar had also been busy. He had contacted the other non-Vorthak species and shared his data about human adaptability and resistance tactics. The Luminari, a peaceful species that valued creativity, were fascinated by human problem-solving methods. The Zephyrians saw potential trading partners who could offer unique perspectives on technology and strategy. The galaxy is watching, Velthar told Teho. If humans can prove they can resist the Vorthak, other species will support you. But you must show that you can survive on your own first. Back on Earth, Yoon Hyunwoo was playing a dangerous game. He had been captured during the initial invasion and was being held in a Vorthak detention center in Tokyo. But instead of trying to escape, he had convinced his captors that he could be useful as a translator and cultural advisor. The Vorthak were having trouble understanding human behavior. Their psychological models could not predict human actions. Hyunwoo offered to help them, while secretly gathering intelligence for the resistance. Humans are pack animals, Hyunwoo explained to his Vorthak handlers. They follow alpha leaders and protect their territory. If you eliminate the leaders, the others will submit. This was partly true, but mostly false. Humans did follow leaders, but they also had a tendency to create new leaders when old ones were removed. Every time the Vorthak eliminated a resistance cell, 2 new cells formed to replace it. Hyunwoo's real value was in learning about Vorthak operations. He discovered that their entire command structure depended on quantum communication networks. Every Vorthak unit was connected to a central command system that coordinated their actions across the planet. The network was their greatest strength, but it was also a potential weakness. If the network could be disrupted, the Vorthak forces would become isolated and confused. Hyunwoo carefully gathered information about communication protocols, security codes, and network architecture. He memorized everything because writing it down would be too dangerous. Every day he learned more about how the alien command system worked. The breakthrough came when he overheard a conversation between 2 Vorthak technicians. They were complaining about network lag caused by interference from human industrial equipment. Apparently, certain human technologies created electromagnetic noise that slowed down Vorthak communications. That night, Hyunwoo used a hidden communication device to send a coded message to the resistance. The message was simple: the network can be broken. Do-hyun received the message in his soul bunker and immediately called a meeting of resistance leaders from around the world. Using Sujin's modified communication system, they held a secure conference with cells in New York, London, Moscow, and 12 other cities. If we can disrupt their communication network, we can turn their coordination against them, Do-hyun explained. Right now they move like a single organism, but if we cut the connections, they become isolated predators. The plan they developed was ambitious and dangerous. It required coordinated attacks on Vorthak communication hubs in cities around the world. The timing had to be perfect. If even one hub remained active, the Vorthak could reorganize and counterattack. Sujin was tasked with creating the weapons needed for the operation. She needed devices that could generate enough electromagnetic interference to overload quantum communication systems. But the devices had to be powered by human technology and operated by human intuition. I need something that thinks like a human but hits like an alien, Sujin told her team. The solution came from an unexpected source. Young Sik suggested using human music as a control system. Music was mathematical but emotional, structured but creative. It was the perfect combination of logic and chaos. Sujin created communication jammers that operated based on musical patterns. Each device could be programmed with a different song, and the electromagnetic pulses would follow the rhythm and melody. To human operators, the system was intuitive and easy to control. To Vorthak computers, it was completely unpredictable. As the resistance prepared for their coordinated strike, they received unexpected help. Velthar's ship arrived in Earth orbit, carrying supplies and equipment from the Archean collective. The aliens could not fight directly, but they provided defensive shields and communication enhancers that would help protect human resistance bases during the operation. The Luminari sent something even more valuable: information. They had studied Vorthak tactics for centuries and knew the aliens' weaknesses. They shared this know. Admiral Crick stood on the bridge of his warship and looked at the star maps. His ship was massive, painted black with red markings that meant death in Vorthak culture. The Vorthak were warriors who had conquered 12 different worlds. They were tall, with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. Their technology was built for one thing: war. "Show me the human territory," Crix ordered. A three-dimensional map appeared in the air. It showed the solar system where Earth was located. The humans had spread to several planets and moons, but their settlements were small compared to Vorthak military bases. "They are weak," said Commander Thek, Crix's second in command. "Their ships are slow. Their weapons are primitive. We can crush them in one day." Crix studied the map more carefully. The humans had been hidden for their entire history. That meant they were either very lucky or very clever. He did not believe in luck. "Never underestimate an unknown enemy," Crix said. "But you are right. We must attack before they learn about us and prepare defenses." Meanwhile, Lee Taeho was on Velthar's ship, trying to understand what he had gotten himself into. The alien scientist was excited about meeting humans, but he was also worried. He knew how the galaxy worked. When new species were discovered, they usually became part of one of the four major powers. Sometimes this happened peacefully, sometimes it did not. "I must take you to my leaders," Velthar told Taeho. "They will want to meet with your people and establish formal contact." "That sounds good," Taeho said. But something in Velthar's voice made him nervous. "Is there something I should know?" Velthar was quiet for a moment. "The galaxy is not always a peaceful place," he finally said. "Some species prefer to conquer rather than negotiate. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Dr. Park Jimin, was working late in her laboratory. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied life forms from other worlds. But since no aliens had ever been found, she mostly studied Earth life that might survive on other planets. Jimin was looking at bacteria samples when the emergency alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed in her lab. The computer announced, "Unknown ships approaching. All personnel to emergency stations." Jimin ran to the main control room and looked at the screens. 3 ships were coming toward Europa. They were moving fast and did not respond to communication attempts. The ships looked like nothing humans had ever built. They were angular and dark with weapon ports glowing red. "Are those?" Jimin started to ask. "Aliens," said the station commander, "and they don't look friendly." The Vorthak strike had begun. Crix had decided to hit the outer human colonies first. This would test human defenses and create fear. If the humans surrendered quickly, the conquest would be easy. If they fought back, the Vorthak would learn about human tactics. The 3 Vorthak ships opened fire on Europa Station without warning. Energy beams cut through the station's shields like they were made of paper. Explosions shook the facility. People screamed and ran for escape pods. Jimin grabbed her research data and followed the evacuation procedures. But as she ran through the corridors, she saw something that made her stop. One of the Vorthak energy beams had hit the laboratory next to hers. The wall was melted and she could see the burn patterns. The energy signature was unlike anything in human science. But Jimin was a scientist, and even in the middle of an attack, her curiosity was stronger than her fear. She quickly took readings with her portable scanner before running to the escape pods. On Earth, the news of the attack on Europa created panic. World leaders held emergency meetings. The military prepared for war. But everyone knew the truth. Humanity was not ready to fight aliens with superior technology. Kim Do-hyun was in his apartment in Seoul when the news broke. He was a former military strategist who now worked as a security consultant. He watched the news reports and felt his old training kick in. The aliens had made a mistake by attacking Europa first. They had given Earth time to prepare. Do-hyun's phone rang. It was his old commander from the Korean military. "We need you," the commander said. "The president is forming a defense council. We need people who understand asymmetric warfare." "Asymmetric warfare," Do-hyun repeated. "You mean guerrilla tactics?" "Exactly. If these aliens are as advanced as they seem, we cannot fight them in traditional battles. We need to be creative." Do-hyun packed his bags. As he left his apartment, he looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, alien ships were coming to invade his world. But Do-hyun had spent his career studying how small forces could defeat larger ones. David had beaten Goliath before. Maybe humans could do it again. The Vorthak fleet moved through the solar system like a dark tide. After Europa, they attacked the mining stations on Ceres and the research outpost on Titan. Each attack was swift and overwhelming. Human defenses were crushed within hours. But Crix noticed something strange. The humans did not surrender. Even when their stations were destroyed, they kept fighting. They used escape pods as weapons, ramming them into Vorthak ships. They detonated fuel depots to damage Vorthak landing craft. Some humans even put on spacesuits and attacked Vorthak soldiers with hand weapons. "They are insane," Commander Thek said after the third attack. "They cannot win, but they keep fighting." "Interesting," Crix said. The Vorthak had conquered many species. Most surrendered when they realized resistance was hopeless. But these humans seemed to prefer death to defeat. That was either very brave or very stupid. On Velthar's ship, Tejo was watching the attacks through the alien sensors. He felt sick as he watched human colonies being destroyed. But he also felt angry. "I have to warn Earth," he told Velthar. "My people need to know what is coming. The Vorthak jamming systems will block any message you try to send," Velthar said sadly. "But I can take you to the Archean homeworld. My leaders might be willing to help." "Why would they help us?" Tejo asked. "Because the Vorthak do not stop with one conquest," Velthar explained. "Today they attack humans. Tomorrow they might attack us." Tejo nodded. He was beginning to understand galactic politics. It was not much different from Earth politics, just with higher stakes. The Vorthak fleet reached Earth's outer defenses 2 days after the first attack. Earth's orbital defense platforms opened fire, but their weapons barely scratched the alien ships. The Vorthak returned fire and destroyed the platforms in minutes. Then the invasion began. Vorthak landing ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling meteors. They landed in major cities: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Mumbai. Each landing ship carried 1,000 Vorthak soldiers equipped with advanced weapons and armor. The initial battle was a massacre. Human military forces fought bravely. But their weapons were centuries behind Vorthak technology. Tanks were destroyed by handheld energy weapons. Fighter jets were shot down by alien aircraft that moved like impossible dreams. But then something unexpected happened. The humans adapted. Du-hyun was in a bunker beneath Seoul when the Vorthak landed in the city center. He watched the battle through security cameras and saw human soldiers learning to fight the aliens. They stopped trying to win direct battles. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics. They attacked supply lines. They hid in buildings and struck when the aliens were not expecting it. Most importantly, they shared information. Every time a human soldier discovered something about Vorthak weapons or tactics, the knowledge spread quickly through the resistance network. "They are learning," Do-hyun said to his team. "The aliens are stronger, but we are faster learners." Choi Soo-jin was an engineer who worked for Samsung. When the Vorthak landed in Seoul, she was trapped in her office building. But instead of hiding, she started studying the alien technology. When a Vorthak soldier was killed in the street below, she used a drone to bring pieces of his equipment to her lab. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but Soo-jin noticed something important. It was designed for Vorthak physiology and thinking patterns. The aliens were logical and methodical. Their technology expected users to be the same way, but humans were not logical. Humans were chaotic, emotional, and unpredictable. Soo-jin realized that this might be an advantage, not a weakness. She started modifying the alien equipment, introducing random elements and emotional decision-making into the control systems. The results were crude but effective. Her modified weapons behaved in ways the aliens could not predict or counter. On the Vorthak command ship, Crix was receiving reports from the invasion force. The conquest was proceeding, but not as quickly as expected. Human resistance was fierce and unpredictable. "They fight without logic," Commander Thek reported. "Our tactical computers cannot predict their movements. They sacrifice strategic positions to save civilians. They waste ammunition on hopeless attacks. They do not follow any military doctrine, we understand." Crick studied the battle reports. Human behavior made no sense from a military perspective, but it was effective. The chaotic human tactics were slowing down the Vorthak advance. "Perhaps," Crick said slowly, "we have underestimated these humans." Far from Earth, Velthar's ship was approaching the Archean homeworld. Tejo sat in the observation deck, watching the beautiful crystal cities of the alien planet grow larger. He was humanity's first ambassador to the stars, but his world was being conquered while he was away. "Do not lose hope," Velthar said, sitting beside him. The stars looked different from up here. Lee Taeho pressed his face against the small window of his cargo ship and watched the endless black space filled with tiny lights. He had been flying cargo runs for 3 years now, but the view never got old. His ship, the Seoul Express, was old and loud, but it got the job done. Today he was carrying medical supplies to the mining station on Titan. Taeho was once a soldier in the Korean Special Forces. He fought in small wars on Earth and learned how to survive when things went wrong. But space was peaceful. No wars, no fighting, just long trips between planets and moons. It was boring, but safe. The ship's computer made a beeping sound. Something was wrong with the engine. Taeho looked at the red lights on his control panel and felt his stomach drop. The quantum drive was overheating. If it failed out here, he would be stuck in space with no way to call for help. Not today, he said to himself and started working on the controls. But the engine got worse. More red lights appeared. The ship started to shake. Far away on a ship that looked like a giant crystal, Velthar was doing his daily work. He was a scientist from a race called the Archean Collective. His people were old, much older than humans. They had been exploring space for thousands of years. Velthar's job was to watch empty parts of the galaxy and look for new things to study. For the past few months, he had been seeing strange energy readings from a part of space that should be empty. His instruments showed patterns that looked almost like technology, but that was impossible. This sector had been mapped long ago. Nothing lived here except rocks and gas clouds. Velthar had gray skin and 4 arms. His eyes were large and black, and he could see types of light that humans could not. He was very curious about the strange readings. Today they were stronger than ever. The Seoul Express shook harder. Taeho tried everything he knew, but the engine was dying. He had to make an emergency landing somewhere, but there were no planets nearby. Just a big cloud of gas and dust called a nebula. It was dangerous to go in there, but he had no choice. As his ship flew into the nebula, the quantum drive finally broke. The Seoul Express lost power and started floating in space. Taeho activated his emergency beacon. It sent out a signal asking for help, but he knew no human ships were close enough to hear it. The beacon's signal traveled through space in all directions. Most of it was lost in the empty dark, but some of it reached Velthar's crystal ship. Velthar had been drinking his morning tea when his instruments went crazy. Energy readings spiked across all his screens. The signal was coming from inside the nebula, and it was definitely technology, but not any technology he knew. Impossible, Velthar said in his musical voice. The Archean Collective had detailed maps of every intelligent species in the galaxy. There were only 4 races: the Archeans, the peaceful Luminari, the trading Zephyrians, and the aggressive Vorthak Empire. Everyone else had been discovered and catalogued centuries ago, but this signal was different. It used principles of quantum physics, but in a way he had never seen. Someone was out there, and they were not on any of his maps. Velthar made a decision that would change everything. He turned his ship toward the nebula. The Seoul Express was getting cold. Taeho put on his emergency suit and checked his air supply. He had maybe 6 hours before he would run out of oxygen. The ship's backup power could keep life support running for a little longer, but not much. He was looking out the window when he saw lights moving through the nebula. At first he thought they might be natural phenomena like space lightning. But the lights were moving in patterns, getting closer. Something was coming toward him. The crystal ship appeared out of the gas cloud like a dream. It was beautiful and strange, covered in lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Taeho had never seen anything like it. It was clearly not human technology. First contact, he whispered to himself. This was the moment every human had wondered about. Are we alone in the universe? The answer was flying toward him right now. Velthar's ship extended a mechanical arm and grabbed the Seoul Express gently. Air-filled tubes connected the 2 ships. Velthar put on his environmental suit and prepared to meet whoever was inside the strange vessel. When the airlock opened, both beings stared at each other in shock. Taeho saw a tall gray figure with 4 arms and huge black eyes. Velthar saw a short, pink creature with only 2 arms and tiny eyes. Hello, Taeho said in English, then tried Korean, then the few words he knew in Chinese and Japanese. Veltar's translation device picked up the sounds and started working on the patterns. Within minutes, it had learned enough to create basic communication. Hello, Velthar's device said in a mechanical voice. What are you? I am human, Taeho replied. I am from Earth. Earth? Velthar's device repeated. This word is not in my database. What sector is Earth in? Tejo gave him the coordinates. Velthar checked his star maps and felt a shock of disbelief. Those coordinates pointed to a region that his people had marked as empty space for over 1,000 years. That is impossible, Velthar said. We have surveyed that area many times. There is nothing there. There is everything there, Tejo said. My planet has 8 billion people. We have colonies on 12 worlds. We have been exploring space for over 100 years. Velthar was quiet for a long time. If this creature was telling the truth, then everything the galactic community believed was wrong. They were not alone. They had never been alone. How many of you are there? Velthar asked. Humans, billions. We live on many worlds. No, Velthar said. How many intelligent species like yours? I don't understand, Tejo said. You are the first alien I have ever met. We thought we were alone. The two beings looked at each other across the gap between worlds. Each had lived their entire lives believing their species was unique. Now they learned that the galaxy was much more crowded than either had imagined. Velthar made another decision that would change history. He activated his long-range communicator and sent a message to the Archean collective. The message was simple but earth-shaking. 5th intelligent species discovered. Designation human. Homeworld Earth population billions. They have been hiding in the empty sector for their entire history. The message traveled across space at faster than light speed, reaching the collective's homeworld in hours. From there, it spread to the other known species. The Luminari responded with excitement. The Zephyrians saw trade opportunities, but the Vorthak Empire had a different reaction. The Vorthak had built their power by being the strongest military force in known space. They controlled their territory through fear and superior weapons. The discovery of a hidden species made them nervous. What if these humans were stronger? What if they had better weapons? What if they were a threat? Admiral Krix was the most aggressive of the Vorthak leaders. When he received the news about humanity, he did not see a new friend. He saw a new enemy that needed to be dealt with quickly before they could become dangerous. Prepare the fleet, Krix ordered. We attack before they know we exist.